that will be particularly rewarding. Our hunch is that we're going to see the numbers of patients we treat are going to be higher because the number of patients who didn't consider it because they just couldn't is higher than anyone expected.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What time span do you think the neurologists and the EMTs and would be available? When do they get started? The time span.
July of 25.
Okay.
And yeah, they can't start until we build space for them, and we're looking to finish in the middle to the end of June. The good news is that we are actively recruiting from the right now, and I feel pretty good about our prospects. So they will be on the ground, ready to go as soon as we cut the red ribbon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So those are the services. Anyone get us? What did we miss? What specialty would you have liked to have heard?
I shared a story
Oh.
with Carla as well, before the meeting started. And I want to thank you for including the radiation, because the story that I have to share is of a dear friend and artist friend of mine who needed radiation therapy, and she chose death with dignity because she couldn't make the travel.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that is a huge motivation for us doing this. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Mike, how are you finding things in all this?
That's a good question. So about, 2 years ago, we were considering all of the different options. And one option is, as a public hospital district, going to the community and saying, hey, schools pass bonds to build new schools. Public hospital districts pass bonds to build new facilities. It's not an unusual way for a public hospital district to fund its growth. Secondly, our tax rate is compared to other public hospital districts is really low, and it's by design. Our thinking is that if we can make this work through the business model, then we won't ask the community to support us. But this is a pretty big bite. So we did entertain maybe going out to the community. We held a series of open forums, and this was right in the middle of COVID, so they were all over the phone and Zoom and Teams meeting. And the sentiment was very supportive of the hospital, but boy, you finance that last one on your own. Can't you do this one on your own too? So we heard them. What we also heard and understood is that there's a lot of pent-up demand with some of the other, the city and the county and the school districts, that they had important projects in the pipeline that they have no other financing option. So the board instructed administration to go back to the drawing board and see if we could do this without public funding. So we went to the debt market. All told, it's about a $70 million project. The project itself, with soft costs and some other moving pieces, I think the total debt instrument is about $94 million, 96, I think. And we put together a feasibility study to try to understand the revenue that the new services will generate, and the expenses that operating them will follow, and see what that financial analysis looks like at the end. And even with pretty conservative projections, that the project, because there are so many revenue generating pieces to this, and really for reasons that are kind of unclear to me, that specialty care, Medicare and Medicaid and commercial insurers tend to pay more for specialty care than primary care. And most of the services that we are adding are specialty care and carry with it a little better reimbursement. That and our critical access hospital status, which allows us to pass on some of the costs of the depreciation of the building, allowed it to be a pretty safe bet. Say a $96 million bet is safe. But we desperately needed the space. What I learned last time when we coulda, shoulda, woulda built more, but we didn't because it was too expensive. Well, it was about 40% of cost of construction in 2016 was about 40% of what it is today. And I don't expect it to get any cheaper. So we said, let's build what we need and rely on the feasibility study. So basically the business model is a short answer to my long-winded response to your question. The business model will support the debt service of the project. Yep. Yeah.
So when you hire these specialists, are they going to be employees under the critical access hospital, or are they going to be expected to be their own clinic and run independent? That makes a difference on your revenue as a facility.
Yeah, I think the days of a private practice physician practicing in Jefferson County are gone.
Right.
Yeah, so it's we use the employment model for nearly all of our providers, and we expect to with these as well.
Awesome.
It's just really, as a critical access hospital, our reimbursement is a little better. It's
110%.
cost bet. Well, it's not that better. It's like 99 and 101% for eligible and doctors are critical access hospital eligible services. So
Correct.
so we're
But the division is different. So the division for critical access hospital, when you have them as employees, is different. They get less of a percentage. Money comes out of your professional services and more into your facility when you're critical access. So it does make a difference. So that's great. You're on the right track.
okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, I'll stop there. She said I'm on the right track, so I'll take that. All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
Does this project fill out your footprint there, or are you able to expand more?
You want to say your question again?
We actually are. That
Thank you.
in fact, the expansion. The question is, does this project fill out our footprint, or will we be able to expand more? And the short-term expansion plan is what will be a parking lot. The parking lot in front of the new building, we will accommodate another footprint of projects similar to the building that we're building.
Where's the new building?
Yeah, so like right here, connected to that building would be probably the first expansion if we need to continue to introduce specialty providers to the community. And then the longer term plan is that we've acquired all of the land on the other side of the castle, all the way to Sheridan to Sims and back. So when I was at Olympic Medical Center working with the CFO, who then went on to become the CEO, we had this sort of informal rule that any piece of property that came within what we called our hot zone, we would acquire whether we needed it or not. And our mantra was, the person who replaces the person who replaces the person who replaces us, they will be thanking us for doing this, because I don't really think we need that space right now along Sheridan and Sims, but I'm sure will probably in the next 20, 30, 40 years. So I think we're in pretty good shape for expansion. So let me talk about I want to make sure I give ample time for the.
Want me to hold it? Does that help?
Yeah, probably. So, how are you doing? Okay. So that there are a couple of big elements to the financing plan. One certainly is the revenue bonds. We worked with JP Morgan and Siemens for all told about $50 million of revenue bonds. And we also were successful in petitioning the state and federal governments for grants. So Representative Theringer was able to steer $4 million to this project for the expansion of our OBGYN program. So we were appreciative of that. Senator Cantwell was able to direct $1.5 million for the construction, the shell of or the vault of the linear accelerator program.
Is that concrete?
Yeah.
Right there. 7 feet thick?
Yeah, it's a good place to go when the world ends, I think. And we challenged our foundation to generate $2.5 million. And so they have been hard at work in helping us sort of that final dollar. And it's a pretty exciting time. They're doing great work with members of our community, and also next week, right? We hear back from a grant application that we submitted like years ago, but I think it was like last fall for $450,000 for this project as well. What makes this even more special, Rita, is that this is truly a community-oriented and community-supported venture, because we wouldn't be able to do it without the support from the state and the federal government and the foundation, which is dollars that our community is providing. So that is really exciting. We will be the first critical access hospital in the state to offer radiation therapy. So we are fired up about that. I mentioned earlier the group that we're working with. They are brilliant, as most cancer doctors are, and really know the clinical side of the work, and helped us not only select the linear accelerator, it's a very intriguing, for those of you who know anything about the linear accelerator market, and outfit in a way that, as they say, future-proofs it, to where we should feel good about the contemporariness of the service for years and years to come. And they really understand the business side of radiation therapy, because it's sort of a reality now that when I talk with the providers at the hospital, I say this, the white shirts and the white coats. And for the first 15, 20 years of my career, we kind of fought like cats and dogs, where because our interests weren't aligned, there's all sorts of challenges about the private doctor model, because as they began to get squeezed with respect to reimbursement, they would introduce, because they needed to make their practice work, they would introduce competing services against the hospital. And that would make it more challenging for everyone. But with the model of employed providers, then they can just really focus on providing clinical work. But we are looking forward to learning from the Tyrod group about the business side of radiation therapy as well. And they just are really intellectually curious about a radiation therapy center in a rural community. There's certainly one in Squim, but they're really kind of just smitten with the thought of coming out and working here with us. So we couldn't be more happy about that. With respect to the timeline, if you've been by the campus recently, I was just gobsmacked at how quickly and seemingly easily that building went down. Apparently, there's an issue right now because and I don't know what as-built for a building in 1965, I'm not sure they're worth the paper they're drawn on, but indicated that like some of the cement footings were 4 feet embedded in the ground, 4 feet, which had implications about how they pull them out and then how they compact the soil afterwards. Well, we come to find out they're 8 feet into the ground, which initially I underappreciated. Say, okay, you know, work the weekend and yank them out, but the impact that has on the soil compaction and just the difficulty of all of that was more severe than I appreciated. So they're wrapping their heads around that now. But this model of when you don't just automatically pass those extra costs on to the owner is a good one, because we truly sit down and come up with a sensible solution. But it's this part of the building, the two-story part of the building, is actually a tilt-up. So it will be manufactured and it will almost be stood up over the course of a week. The shell of it will, using that level of technology. So that they tell me is going to happen like May or June. So you'll be seeing like quick spurts of progress, and then the work will continue. We spent a lot of time figuring out how to connect the existing ESSB to the new building and try to do that in a sensible way. Because we've all been in hospitals where if their goal was to design them in an insensible way, they succeeded. So corridors are long, and like the main corridor that goes from the ESSB all the way down to the surgery center, it's a straight line, and you can see where you're going from both ends. And then there will be a couple of access points to the new building. So we spent a lot of time on wayfinding and trying to make it as intuitive as possible. So I'll be anxious to see how well we did. We also